This is Mainstreet with Gary Allen. Now, here's Gary.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Main Street. Gary Allen with you, your humble but always smiling host. Hope things have gone well for you over the last week since we saw each other last. And of course, next Tuesday, we will have another show for you here at 2 p.m. as we do every Tuesday at 2 p.m. right here on C News Network. But before I get to today's guest, which is a fantastic guest and an old dear friend of mine, I want to thank some people for being part of this. My executive producer, Mr. Rick Del Vecchio, my studio producer, Andres and Ilion. I also want to thank Mike and Grant Miller from C News Network for giving me this platform in order for me to be on here. Our community sponsors, rather, the Japanese Garden of Miami and the Elks Lodges of Miami. Thank you for your continued support of this program. We really, really do appreciate it very, very, very much. And there are a lot of other people, too, who are involved, but I just want to thank those people in particular. Again, like I said, I hope you've had a wonderful week since the last time we talked. The weather has been a little wacky, and it's warm. It's hot. It's warm. It's hot. I'm waiting for a cold front to come through here very, very soon. My guest for today is a gentleman that you have probably remember from his days at Magic 102.7. He's been on the air as a broadcaster for over 35 years. 28 of those he spent at Magic 102.7. He is currently at WLRN 91.3. You can hear him from 5 until 10 in the morning. He's also a dear friend of mine in more ways than one. We're going to talk about some of the celebrities that he's interviewed over the years, as well as his show Jukebox Saturday Night, which we're going to work on trying to get that back on the air, as well as the creator and host of Beetle Brunch. Now, it's a show that you can't hear in South Florida anymore, but for all intents and purposes, we're going to let you know by going on the website exactly how you can still listen to those great shows. So without further ado, let me bring on one of my dear old friends and a gentleman who has more talent coming out of his pinky than I got running through my entire body, Mr. Joe Johnson.
Wow. Listen, I'm wearing a mask. Is that okay? Is that going to make you feel safe? Should I wear the mask or I don't.
Do you plan on operating on somebody within the hour?
No. I'm going to Publix on Saturday, so I don't know. Maybe it's a little early. Hang on. Let me unmask my mask. Okay. There we go. All right. I just wanted to give you the choice. If I wear it for you.
Well, Joe, as always, you're an accommodating host, as you always have been. I mentioned at the top that you were with the Magic for about 28 plus years.
Yeah, almost exactly half my life. I mean, within like a couple of weeks. Isn't that crazy? At the time, half my life at the time.
Yeah, at the time. And by the way, I forgot to mention this with the Beetle Brunch. It's going on 30 years in May.
It'll be 30. Yeah, it's my little baby that it turns 30 on May 31st. We started the show in May 31st, 1992, featuring Sergeant Pepper, which had turned 25 that year. So,
yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's a labor of love, but whether or not you have a vacation or a cruise or a death in the family or whatever, you got to put out a show. Got to do a show every week. So that's what I do here in my little studio here, my Pro Tools studio.
Yeah.
And other stuff as well. But so, yeah, it's been a fun ride. It's, you wonder, people say, do you ever run out of topics? Not really, because, I can feature Sergeant Pepper every year, play different versions of stuff, talk about different stories, or I can take requests. I can do things like that. So I can visit an event and interview people there. So there's a lot of shows. I can interview authors and, feature movies and stuff. So there's a lot of road there to travel, but thank you. Yeah. 30 years coming up in a couple of months. Wow.
Wow. I have socks that are older than that.
Well, that's possible. Yeah. I believe it. I've seen your socks. I
wouldn't. As Dave Lamont would say, yeah,
bada
absolutely.
Boom.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I'm going to get when I get home, we're going to do a show live in that studio that talks about. We're going to have you and Dave and all the people on from South Florida, the broadcasters that I love dearly and are dear friends of mine. As a matter of fact, in the cityscape that's behind us here is the very first place I got a job at was it WLR? Not WLR, and that's where you're at, but it was WINZ.
Oh,
I was, I
940
was
wins. Yeah, right.
yeah, I was doing news as a intern, and I was also doing some production stuff as an intern. Used to scrape the reel to reels using a, a razor blade, getting
Yeah.
the tape off of the blade. So, I have a love for Miami that's second to none. Where did your love for broadcasting begin?
This is a cool story because my dad was a truck driver in the 60s, and his job was to go to buildings that had vending machines. So like Museum of Science was one of his stops, and certain motels and places that you'd have a vending machine. So whether it was a cigarette machine, candy machine, it was a soda, where the cup would drop down and it would fill up with soda and stuff.
All right.
So one of the stops and I used to go to work with him in the summer because I was bored and got to sit in the truck. And it was also one of those trucks with the big engine box. And if you're a kid, you sat on the engine box facing the back
Yeah.
of the truck. It's like a death trap. And I drove with the door open on the side. So it was like you could fall out. I could get thrown out of the thing. And that's how safety was back then. Remember when we used to lay across the back of the car
Right.
and the back seat where the two speakers are? And we'd lay there and in the sun while our parents drove the car. You can't really get away with it anymore. But anyway,
No.
I rode with them, and and again, there was no seat for me. There was just a step area on the right side that had that corrugated, like aluminum looking floor. But one of our stops every Wednesday about 8 o'clock was WFUN 790. And
Ah,
it was funny when I went to work for Magic and they were bought by Jefferson Pilot. 790 was in the building, so it was kind of cool to see. And for a while, they were doing music. So you had Mike Ranieri on it, and I don't know Big Wilson, but other people from that era. But anyway, the point was I went to work with him, and we would go to WFUN, and we would go around back to get into where the DJ was to fill the coffee machine. And of course, the jocks had to pay like a dime. They had to pay to work there. They had to buy coffee. There was no even coffee pot.
ah,
So we would pick through there. They had a garbage pile out, looked like a campfire, but it was a garbage pile. I would just pick records out and take them home. And they normally were like Buick commercials and stuff because back in the day, for some reason, commercials were on a record. So I loved it. That was my favorite stop. And we would go in the back door. They would let us in. And I believe it was I forget who the DJ was. I think he's still around today. Mike something. But anyway, I would go in and I'd watch him through the window, and I liked when he talked to the news guy and stuff. And then my dad would give him a cup of coffee by testing the coffee machine. And I remember, Bob Gordon, that's who it was. And
oh, okay.
Bob Gordon would go, I want to thank the coffee man for giving me a cup of coffee. Thank you, coffee man, here at WFUN 79. WFUN degrees here in Miami, broadcasting out of South Miami, 67th Avenue. Now, future become a Schwinn shop later on. So stay tuned to this real estate. But so it's true. It became a Schwinn bicycle store.
Oh.
And I think they still had to pay for their own coffee. But at least they had a lid. They had a lid in case you were riding your bike. So no,
Yeah.
that was where I fell. I fell in love with radio. And then my second leg of that, because I was only like 12 at that time. By the time I turned like 15 and 16, and I was listening to Y100 or Power, it was 96X at the time. I was
Yeah.
winning. I figured out the winning formula, and I became one of those chronics that we used to make fun of that would listen and win every contest. You'd be giving away $1,000. It'd be the same person. Hey, who's this? Oh, it's Tammy. Oh, Tammy, didn't you win like an hour ago? So they take the air out of your balloon.
Yeah.
So I used to win. And I remember on Y100, I think I won 6 times in a row. And they kind of picked up when they go, hey, listen, man, congratulations, but can you stop winning for today? I said, sure. Yeah, it was. And I used to win albums. I think I still have some. I won a John Denver Back Home Again or something album from Y100. That's when they were playing John Denver back in. Remember Y100 played the Carpenters and then Stairway to Heaven.
Were they down? Was that when they were down off of Sheridan Street?
Yeah, they were on 29th Terrace, which Magic ended up being in the next building. So I could literally walk from Y100 to when I started working at Magic. And they were still there until they were bought by Clear Channel iHeart. And then they moved to that big, gigantic Home Depot facility right by Pro Players or Stadium, what's the name of the stadium this week?
I still call it the
Joe Robbie.
Joe Robbie. Yeah, because of my friendship with Tim. I still call it the Joe Robbie Stadium.
I remember when they named it Pro Player Park, and for about a week, because we would go, hey, have you been to PP Park this week?
Yeah.
And so, it was like a dog park, just bring your bags. So they changed the name to Pro Player Stadium. Ooh, that's So anyway,
Really?
yes, I think
I think
we'd
it's
be a
called
good contest.
Sunlight Stadium or something, I
Sun
think,
Life
or
Stadium for the insurance company that was out of business by the time they put the name on it. We could run through all the names. There've been like 10. Now it's Hard
Yeah,
Rock Stadium, which kind of makes sense because you make some noise and there's music playing and all that
yeah,
stuff.
of
But
course.
anyway, I started winning and then I was winning all the time from the top 40 stations at the time. And then I won a record. I should have taken it out, but I can't get to it. It was a heart-shaped Bobby Caldwell record, What You Won't Do for Love. So it was
Oh,
1979.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And what you won't do, do for love. You've tried everything. So it was heart shaped and it's red, and it was for Valentine's Day. So I can tell you it was Valentine's Day, 1979. So I get it, and I put it on the little turntable that I had, and it was skipping, and I felt bad for it. But I thought, well, maybe I'll call the station and they'll let me return it and get a new one. So I did. I called them. They said, "Come on down." I drove to South Beach. It was like a little tiny building that had two offices and two studios and like two offices, and it was on First Street. We used to walk to Joe Stonecrab and get lunch.
Oh, yeah.
So I won it, and I went asked to see the program director, and his name was Rick Peters. He's still in the business.
Oh,
He's in Montgomery,
yeah.
Alabama. He owns a couple stations, and Greg Bedell works there. Anyway, I asked him if I could exchange it, and so he took it out and he exchanged it. He says, "But let me say, maybe you didn't have your stylus weighted down enough." So he put it on his turntable, and it played fine. So he gave me a new one. And as I was sweating there, so nervous, I said, "Have you got any jobs around? Anything I could do around here?" So he put me in the morning show with this guy Skip Herman, who
Yeah.
was on Herman and McBean. He was on She, and he was on 97 GTR and stuff. And he was on Love 94 at the time in the morning. And my job was I had this AM radio with 5 presets. My job was to steal the traffic from Alabrera and all the guys that were flying, write it down and bring it in and give it to Skip, and he would do the traffic. So I knew it like at 7:04, WIOD would do traffic, 7:09, Winds
Yep.
would do traffic, Winds 9:40 traffic time. And I would steal all the traffic because they're not going to report wrong information, then the people wouldn't trust them. So I would take it in and give it to Skip, and he would read the traffic. So that was my first introduction to radio. I thought, well, everybody, I guess they
Yeah.
just listen to everybody else,
Yeah.
and
Mine was Rick Shaw.
really, was it at WQAM or at Waxy?
WQAM, and he used to wear the gold jackets, and they would come to
Yeah,
your high school and play music. And he was there, and I went over to him and I said, "Mr. Shaw, you don't know me from Adam. I'm just a kid here at school." I said, "But I would love to do what you do." And he took down my name and number.
wow.
And my mom actually drove me down to where QAM was at the time on Miami Beach.
41st Street there,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Arthur Godfrey Road.
But my father, who was didn't like giving up any of his time, would not drive me down there. Otherwise, they were going to let me come in on Saturdays and work with the on-air people and stuff like that and develop some kind of a style. I had to wait till much later on in life.
Really?
I got on my own, but I always loved it. And when I interned at WINZ, did some stuff. And I got hired at Zeta to do overnights on Friday and Saturday night.
Right?
For $5.35 or
Wow.
45 cents an hour. Oh yeah. That's when Gino Vanelli was a big hit.
Yeah, he had You Gonna Stop.
Yeah.
Da-da-da.
Well,
Well,
no,
we
this
used
was even before then. It was even
before
before that.
then.
Powerful People
Oh,
was his
Powerful
big,
People, yeah.
which I
We
still have all of that stuff.
I have a lot of his music too. We actually had him, and we're going to talk about it later, but we had him on the 70s rock and romance cruise a couple of years ago, and I did this interview with him. He was very mysterious. He wore this like almost like a Gilligan hat, like this floppy hat, and he had glasses and kind of a beard, so he didn't think you would recognize him, but nobody else looked like that with the crazy hat and the beard and the glasses, so it was easy to recognize him. But he was kind of shy, but very, very, very talented guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very super talented guy. Now you were saying before we went on the air that there's a cruise coming up, but it's already sold out. But you want to talk about that and how you got involved in these different cruises. You do a romance cruise, you did the Flower Power cruise,
To the disco cruise, if you can
the
believe it.
disco cruise. That's honest to God, Joe. I love you with all my heart. You know that.
Are you mad about the disco cruise?
No, no, no. I mean, I'd be glad to go with you, but that's the things of the disco era, the bell-bottom pants and the
Well,
polyester shirts and stuff. I could do without. You know.
Well, people bring like extra suitcases for that for all that crazy clothes because they'll have costume contests, they'll have YMCA night or whatever, crazy nights out by the pool, and people wear those big giant wigs and they dress up and they have a good time. It's fun. I think there might be a stigma with the name disco, so I think there's certain bands that feel like they don't. We're not a disco band, but like next year, the Kool and the Gang, Billy Ocean, Sister Sledge, Taylor
Wow.
Dane, Tavares. That's not too bad. That's not too.
No.
Those are pretty good. Kool and the
Oh.
Gang is boy. How can you beat them? And so anyway, that's next year. I was on the disco this year. That was quite a great time. We had well in the past we've had Gene Knight, we had Expose, we had that got the girls back together for Expose. It was fun. I tell you, those 5 days of the disco cruise are way more taxing on me than 7 days of any other cruise because you're up till 12:45 introducing bands and up in the morning and it's
Yeah.
crazy. But
Yeah.
the one you mentioned that's going out Monday is the Flower Power Cruise. And even though you can't buy a cabin, what they do is the cruise is so successful that as it's heading back to Miami, the last 3 days, whatever, they put the cabins on sale to the current audience only. So if you're in your cabin, they say you can have your same cabin. If you want it, come down to the 5th floor, book it for next year. All we want is $100 deposit to hold it. So by the time they pull into port, they're 80% sold out. And
Wow.
so like as soon as they get in, about a week later, they open it up to the general public and it sells out literally in like an hour. And so
Wow.
you can get on the wait list. Some people can't go, something happens. And you can usually, if you get on the wait list early enough, but this week, even though you can't go, Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, Jefferson Starship, the Box Tops, the original, except for one of the
Ooh.
guys, there's 3 of the 4. The Cowsills are the most entertainment for your money you'll ever have because they're so fun, so funny. They'll pose for goofy pictures. Paul Cowsill will just stop what he's doing, get off the stage, and run around the whole theater and high-fiving everybody. So anyway, the Cowsills, Peter Asher, World Without Love, Peter and Gordon, he's kind of the cruise face. He's kind of the host. I mean, he'll
Yeah.
come out and tell a story about the Cowsills that they didn't even know. And he said, I worked with the Cowsills back in 1966. And so you got Felix Cavalera's Rascals, the Grassroots, Mitch Ryder,
Wow.
the Zombies, the 3 original guys of the Zombies, the Guess Who, Vanilla Fudge, John Lodge of the Moody Blues. He puts on an
Now there's a
incredible
guy.
movie show.
There's a gentleman I'd like to interview. Is John
God,
Lodge.
he's so sweet too. Maybe I can introduce you. His daughter's kind of his agent, and
Yeah. Yeah.
he's actually going to be in South Florida a night or 2 before the cruise, so he's getting in a few days early. He's
Yeah,
going to
the Moody
play.
Blues. The Moody Blues was one of my favorite groups of all time, along with Pink Floyd. Yes, the Beatles I enjoyed, Dave Clark 5, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, I saw a picture of Dave Clark not long ago.
Right?
He doesn't look anything like the guy that you saw back in the 60s. I mean, he doesn't look anything like, at least with the Rolling Stones, you go, okay, yeah, Keith Richard, okay, yeah, okay, fine. But Dave Clark, and he's a very polite gentleman. They did an
Yeah.
interview on the. He's a big time producer in England, but I'd love to meet John Lodge. I mean, they
Yeah.
just lost their heart of their group.
Him and Justin Hayward, and they did an album together called Blue Jay, the Blue Jays. When the
Yeah.
Moody Blues kind of broke up in the mid 70s, they did an album called the Blue Jays. So Justin Hayward, John Lodge, that's where I first really heard of him. I'm a
Yeah.
Moody Blues fan, but he's so nice. We were the first time we had him on the Flower Power Cruise a couple of years ago. A bunch of people were having dinner, and he was at the next table. And his daughter comes over to me because she's kind of his manager, and said, John would like to meet you, because I was hosting. And I thought, wow, the guy was so sweet. I got to say hi to him, and then I watched his show, and he really does. It's like the Moody Blues with the orchestrations and everything. And
Yeah.
breathe deep the gathering gloom. Watch lights fade from every room. Exit the people the battle lament. I can do the whole thing. I love that.
Wasn't that the drummer that actually did the voice?
I think it was. Yeah, I don't think it was John Lodge. I think it was the drummer. And breathe deep the gathering.
Yeah.
What a
Oh, yeah.
what a song. Oh my goodness.
So,
Singer
you
of
know
a
what?
rock and roll band. He wrote that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Moody Blues are so spectacular.
That's what I love about that music. I mean, it's really, that's why I said, if you and Coop want somebody to carry your luggage for you the next time you do and next time I have a birthday and I'm down that way, I want Coop to put it together for me because you
Can
guys.
you believe it? My birthday has lasted like a week. Don't tell her that it was over Friday because I got her thinking it's like Hanukkah. It
Well,
lasts 8 days and I get a present every day through the whole thing.
hey, such a deal. I'm all for
You
that. Next time
know?
you're on the program, I don't know where Coop is right now. She may be at work for all I
She's
know.
in the other room. I should go make her come in here. She'll get mad
You
at
ought to
me.
make her come in here. Just make her come in.
Coop, come in here. She won't come in.
Oh, come on.
Well, we'll work on her. I'll send
All
her a
right. I
text.
want to talk about one. I mean, we're going to talk about the Beatles. By the way, for those of you just tuning in, this is Gary Allen with Main Street. Joe Johnson, the living legend of Miami radio from
Living is important, the most important part of that title, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. You can hear him on WLRN 91.3 in the mornings from 5 to 10. You can also watch this program every Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock. We have some great
Tuesday afternoon.
If you had a Mount Rushmore of rock and rollers,
Wow, good question.
yeah, okay, you can take 5 bands,
Right. Oh, wow.
5 individuals. You don't have to stick to just 5. You can
Wow.
have this group and this group. Who would be on your Mount Rushmore?
All right. First off, I'm going to disqualify the Beatles because I would just use all 4 right there.
Yeah.
So let's disqualify. I'm not going to pick Paul McCartney. You know what I mean?
Right.
As much as I would love to. Boy, and does it have to be a rock and roller that also lived a clean life, or can it be somebody that was?
No, I mean, listen. You look at my military record, Joe Johnson, and you know it wasn't clean. In my 6 years in the Air Force, it wasn't clean, and you know me oh too well from my days in Miami. It wasn't clean.
All right.
So,
Well, if I had 5 spaces, I would put you as number 5, but I only have 4. I'm going to go with Jim Morrison.
Mate, that's right, mate. Good on you, mate.
I'm going to go with Jim Morrison for one of my 4 because Break On Through, Light My Fire, People Are Strange. And he played the Miami Beach. No, he played the Dinner Key Marina. He played that little building there where the flames used to fly out of. And that's where allegedly, he was a little obscene. People say that's not true.
No, wasn't that the racetrack in Gulfstream?
No, this was definitely that the Dinner Key Auditorium. That's right. And I grew up going to auto shows there before they had the Miami Beach Convention Center. But the Dinner Key, it was Dinner Key. There's historic pictures somewhere. All right, I'm going to go with Jim Morrison. Okay. Let me see who I would probably say Elton John would be definitely be one of those for me. Okay. I'm going to go on a limb here. Tom Petty, one of my favorites of all time. I mean, I was so sad when we was just talking to one of my best buddies about the day he passed away. I had just seen him in at the theater in Palm Beach, the outdoor West Palm Beach Sound Advice Amphitheater. All right, so I got one more. Let me see. I got
it's for the individual now. That doesn't have to be for the band. The band is another 5.
Oh, 4. There's only 4 on. Unless they put Trump up there, because remember he
no, please don't.
I thought somehow they had a mock-up. Okay.
They did, but that's as far as it's going to go.
Okay, so let me see who my 4th would be. Let me look over my record collection here. Geez, I'm going to say, and this is probably an emotional recent selection. I might not have picked this a year ago. I'm going to say Ronnie Spector. She just passed away, and I went. One of the first things I did is listen to "Be My Baby," and I watched one of her interviews on YouTube. And we used to do at Magic these concerts, "Let the Good Times Roll" they were called. So we would have let's say 6 groups. So you'd have the Righteous Brothers and Dion, and we had Ronnie Spector, and we had there was no wireless mic, so they would run a wire all the way to the back. And I was in the lobby broadcasting Jukebox Saturday Night, and Eric Brandon, my buddy at the time from Magic, would be backstage. And there was no camera. I just have to rely on whether he's telling me the truth or not. And he says, "Joe, I'm here with Ronnie Spector and Be My Baby and Baby, I Love You, et cetera, and the Christmas album." And so as she's talking to him, she was wearing a bathrobe, and she just dropped it. So I couldn't see anything. I was a half a mile away in the lobby. But he's like, "Joe, I wish I could tell you what's going on right now. I can't even describe what's happening right." And this was 25 years ago. She was probably 40. She was beautiful. Yeah. Even to the day that she died, she was beautiful. I feel bad for all that time she wasted with Phil Spector because he was not a nice guy. All right, I'm going to go with Ronnie Spector. So I've got my 4 right there.
Okay, now you got 4 bands you want to put up there.
All right, well, I'm going to use one for the Beatles because I can't leave the Beatles out.
Okay.
I love the Rolling Stones, but I'm probably not as big a fan as you are. I think they're a
Yeah.
little grittier and a little more. I mean, some of their songs you can't always get what you want, and the last time and Paint It Black
You
and
know
stuff.
what though? When I did the thing when they were in Orlando about 6 years, was it 6 or 7 years ago?
Mhm.
They did a concert there. Uh, Mick couldn't have been any nicer. As a
How
matter
did
of
you
fact,
how did you line that up? You had an interview with Mick. Was it in person or over the phone?
oh no, what happened was no, it was not an interview. My buddy was running security,
I
and
got you. Okay.
and he knew I was a Stones fan, so he said, "I'll get you backstage, and you can do security, but don't worry about doing any security. Talk to the guys because they're really cool." Blah blah blah. I've done this before. I got Mick aside, and we were both having a soda, and I said to him, "I gotta know, and please forgive me for being so rude. Who's richer, you or McCartney?" He said, "Oh, McCartney by a lot." He said McCartney's got more money than anybody I can think of. He said, not that I didn't do bad. And I said, yes, I know you went to college and studied economics. And he said, yeah, I take care of the lads here, And then I
Wow.
met I met all the guys, and
Wow.
oh yeah, that was a thrill. That had to be the same thing when you met Ringo and Paul.
Yeah, the Paul thing, he was rehearsing at the American Airlines Arena, and he was gonna play there, and I'd been trying to get an interview because I was working at Magic. We were only like 10, 15 miles away. We were located near, um, County Line Road and 441, and then they were
Yeah.
obviously down. Yeah, I think he was staying at, on Key Biscayne, but I kept trying to get an interview, so they called me up one day, and they go, "Joe, I got your interview with Paul McCartney." I said, "Oh, this is great." They said, "It's, Saturday night in Tampa." So I said, "Really? Why can't it be here in Miami?" He goes, "Oh, you don't want the interview?" "Oh, no, no,
Oh
no."
yeah, yeah,
So I drove to Tampa, and first thing I did was I went to the Rolling Stadium. I went to a place that was like a convention center, and I saw a bunch of trucks, like they were going to have I thought, well, they were setting up for the concert. It was probably for an auto show or something. And after I went in, wrong place, then I find the right place, park far away, and I run all the way in. I get to the side door because they invited me to go to the sound check. So I get there at like 4:30, and I left my recorder back in the car. Isn't that
oh
stupid? So I had to run back to the car, and I'm wearing 2 shirts because I knew I was gonna sweat. I get back, I have my recorder. It was a mini disc. I still have it in my rack over here. It's a mini disc recorder, silver one, about the size of like an iPhone, actually, and a little thicker. And so I tested, I put new batteries, I had a new disc in there, and he comes in. It was really cool. They had a room arranged with like palm trees and fake leather, and he travels with that room because he doesn't want to be photographed sitting on a leather couch. So he travels with all his own stuff. Plus,
yeah.
the team, the staff, they're more comfortable. They know where everything is the same. Everything's laid out the same. So he travels with the whole setup. So I'm in this room, and everybody leaves except the photographer and the videographer and his manager. And then Paul comes in, and
Mhm.
he did at least a little homework. He goes, "So, you're with a show called Beetle Brunch? Oh yeah, the Joe." He was really sweet. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is, they told me in advance, don't talk about. It was with Heather. They said, don't talk about Linda. Don't talk about Heather. Don't talk about his kids or his family. Don't
I
talk
can,
about the Beatles.
I could never figure the thing with Heather because from everything that I read, and a few friends of mine who live in England said that she was begins with the capital B and ends with an
Bully,
H.
a bully.
Bitch.
Oh,
She was
take a drink.
really, she was real. Oh yeah, I'm dry for some strange reason. I had a piece of pizza for lunch, and I'm dry. But yeah, she was. I could never figure that because he's a really nice guy, McCartney.
Yeah, yeah. He's a nice guy, and he's very. And what I like, the difference in him and Ringo is Ringo will give you up from a 5 to 9 minute interview, and he's finishing your sentences. He's a great guy, and he's busy. He's probably the third busiest human on the planet. So he's always right. Yeah, yeah, I know. He's in the Beatles. Okay, what's your next question? But Paul would like listen to your question. But here's the thing: they said don't talk about all of those things. So what I did is I would say, wow, I saw you last night in Miami. You did 2.5 hours. He goes, well, in the Beatle days, we do 29 minutes. And if we didn't like you, we did 25 minutes, And so he would always talk about Beatles stuff. So I was talking about one of the songs on Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. And I said the way it was written, whatever. And I said it reminded me of a George Harrison composition. He goes, well, I was writing Hey Jude with John, and I went and said to him, the movement you need is on your shoulder. And I said, I'll be changing that. And he says, John says, you won't, that's the best line in the song. So he would tell me the Beatles stories. I didn't have to ask for them. It was great. He was happy to. But the first thing that happened is I put my mini disc in, and I had tested it the whole time. And I go to put it in, the red button wouldn't go in. It was like jammed. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do? Am I going to ask the video guy, can I have a copy of his audio? He's probably going to say no.
Yeah.
Or can I just pretend I recorded the show? What do I do? So he goes, oh, Joe, I see your tape machines, the recorder's not working. And I was embarrassed. So I went with my fist on it, and it went into record. I can't believe I'm so lucky. So if I ever did it again, I'd probably bring the entire studio and Pro Tools and with me. Or now you have the iPhone. Now, if I had to, I could do a voice memo with him. But it was the greatest day, one of the greatest days of my life. But because I had run back to the car and I was late and I went to the wrong venue, I had a Beetle Brunch shirt on, like a jeans kind of shirt, like a denim.
Yeah.
And underneath I had a t-shirt. And it's a good thing I had a t-shirt on, because I was like sweating like a
Drenched
circus pony.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But he couldn't have been sweeter. And there's another, I think we learned a trick, you and I, before we came on the air. I'll tell you this trick in a minute. But one of the things I did with McCartney is I wanted him to read liners for Beetle Brunch. And it's like, it's kind of tacky, but if you write them in the right way, he'll be happy to do it. So the liner went, hi, this is Paul McCartney, and we're talking about the new songs from my new album, Chaos and Creation in the Backyard, with Joe Johnson on Beetle Brunch. So yeah, you play it that way for a while, but then you go, hi, this is Paul McCartney with Joe Johnson on Beetle Brunch. You cut out the little thing later down the road,
Yeah.
So he did 3 or 4 of those, and they're great because I now have Paul doing an amazing liner for the show and stuff.
Do you ever notice how the people that are the supposed handlers of the different acts don't say this, don't bring up that, don't bring up, and when you get into the interview, they're open.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. I know that I was at an interview with Ringo one time in New York City at an art gallery. I guess he was showing some of his art, and he was being interviewed by the local radio station. That the reporter probably was in her 20s, and he was done with the interview, and he's kind of walking away from it because he didn't have a good time. And the woman says to him, Ringo, do you think you could get the Beatles back together? Do you think the Beatles would want to get back together and do a tour? And he looked over at his publicist and he went, and so she goes, thank you, that's enough for today. I mean, who would ask that crazy question?
I was talking with someone the other day about that, about it was my business partner, Rick Del Vecchio, who
I love Rick. Yeah, he's awesome.
He's probably listening as we speak. And
Hey, Rick.
he was talking about, I think he said Houdini or some magician performed in front of David Copperfield has performed in front of more people than anybody else in the history of show business. And I said to him, can you imagine if the Fab Four were still alive, the two were still alive? It would take weeks, if not months, of filling the LA Coliseum or the Rose Bowl just to get people to see a concert. I mean, you would have 30 days consistently, 60 days consistently, people seeing that show over.
You're saying he would be there 30 days in a row? Is that what you're saying?
No, the Beatles would.
The Beatles
would have to perform. How many? They would sell out for 60 days in a row.
Yeah,
anywhere where they would be. I mean, people are wonderful. I mean, I see with the Stones and other groups, and even you do when you do the cruises and stuff. Now, getting back, getting back. Now you got 4 bands you got to pick. You pick the Beatles, the Stones.
I didn't pick the Stones. I said you would pick the Stones.
Oh, I would pick the Stones. Yeah, that's.
I mean, not that I don't love them, but they're probably number 10 for me. All right, so I got the Beatles. I'm going to go. I picked Elton John.
Yeah,
and I'm going to go with the Beach Boys because I actually grabbed a stack of CDs the other day. Listened to When I Grew Up to Be a Man, Surfing USA in my room. In fact, on Beetle Brunch the other day, the show that ran on Sunday, I kind of compared, and I don't know if it was just my own reasoning to compare the Beatles doing There's a Place with the Beach Boys doing In My Room. They were done a few months apart. I don't think Brian Wilson he did his second. I don't think Brian Wilson heard There's a Place because it was on the Please Please Me album, which was a British album. And I don't know that, it wasn't like today you could go on YouTube, but there's a place where I can go, and then the Beach Boys are There's a Place where I can go and tell my troubles too. So I kind of likened those two songs as similar in structure in the fact that they were even writing like each other before they knew of each other, in my opinion.
And remember too, and for a lot of people out there that do know this, you and I both know this. The Beach Boys' one album influenced Sergeant Pepper's.
Sure, it was Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
But Brian Wilson will tell you Pet Sounds was influenced by Rubber Soul. So, it was this kind of going on at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got 3: Beach Boys, Beatles, and Elton John. I picked Tom Petty, otherwise I would pick the Heartbreakers here. I'm gonna go Led Zeppelin.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I'm gonna do.
See,
And,
now I would probably put Led Zeppelin up there, but I would also put a group from a town that I lived in for a lot of years, and that's Chicago.
oh, Chicago, you're right, the band. I could maybe they could share a space.
I mean, they haven't really I mean, they've changed members from time to time, but
Did you watch that CNN documentary on it? It was
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
hairy how they were trying to get rid of the horn section, and Walt Parazater says the horns are Chicago.
They
It was sad.
are. They
was
are. That's
sad.
what separated them from everybody else back in the day.
I'll give you a little Chicago question that if you don't know the answer to it, you'll have it now, and you can take it to the next week's interview. Feeling stronger every day. They'd sing Jumpin' Jack Flash is a gas, gas, gas. Feeling stronger every day. Jumpin' Jack Flash is a gas, gas, gas. I actually asked Walt Parazater about that, and he said, "Yeah, we loved the Stones. We always were referencing them and stuff like
Oh
that."
yeah,
So
listen, they take from one another. I mean, what is it? The Barry Manilow song where he used the Chopin's Nocturne or something in
you
there.
mean on the intro? Was it?
Yeah, not I Made It Through the Rain, but one of his, he stole the whole melody from Chopin.
Wow. Yeah.
And he changed it a little, but he basically took the whole thing from there. Okay. By the way, you're listening to Mainstream, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Gary Allen. My guest is Joe Johnson, former Magic 102.7 Beatle Brunch host, celebrating 30 years on the air. Now, how can people still listen to Beatle Brunch, even though it's not heard in South Florida?
Well, thank you for asking, Gary, because a lot of people, like even my station, WLRN, did a feature on the Deauville Hotel, which is historic, being torn down. And there was a little kids band, and they interviewed the kids band that was going to play in front of the Deauville on that night of that they appeared there, February 16th, 64, a couple weeks ago. And they even said, "Oh, Joe Johnson helped us with this, and he used to do a show called Beatle Brunch." And I need to go tell him I still do a show called Beatle Brunch from this room, this studio. So we created a website that the shows are on demand. So I put I put the new show up every week. And what we do to entice people to become a member is, instead of the 4 segments, I put them up right from the studio, so there's no commercials. And I add bonus tracks, because a lot of times I can only do 46 minutes for the syndicator of the show. So I give a couple of different extra tracks of things I didn't have time for. Or if I'm producing the show and it runs long and I realize, oh, it's 10 minutes long, that's the version I'll put for the members. So we have a member website, brunchradio.com or beatlebrunch.com. And they can use it. There's promo code Brunch Deal 1 or Brunch Deal 2 to get in a special deal. But as many of the shows as I can upload are on there, going back to 1992, my first show. And when I listened to the first show, I have it around here somewhere. It's embarrassing, because I sounded like I was doing like a documentary. I was so serious. Now I'm more kind of like we're having a conversation now. Is how I try to be the delivery that now. But brunchradio.com, we have Old Brown. We call Old Brown shows, like the song Old Brown Shoe.
Yeah.
We call them Old Brown shows. So those are the really old shows from like the 90s. And then we have a section called Brunch Bites. And that's if I did it, like I did a 10-minute interview with Ringo a couple of months ago, maybe 6 months ago. I'll put that up there. Or if I have an interview I did with Olivia Harrison, or I have something I did with Louise Harrison, or even my Paul McCartney interview, or Ringo, other interviews, we put those up there. We'll put bonus tracks. Somebody sent me some cool mixes of Beatles songs. We'll put those up there. Or Ringo has an EP. We'll put all the 5 tracks. So there's a lot of stuff, and there's news and features, and people can fill out their profile with their picture and put their links. And so we're trying to make it like a culture of members and then on Sunday mornings at 9, we just pick that time. A bunch of the members get in, we have a chat room, and we all just chat and we listen to the show. on our computers. And the thing about the technology has gotten so much better that now you can download the show to your phone, and you can, in most cases, people can play their phone through their car. Either plug it in or it's wireless, like the way you
Right.
use your phone. So you can listen to the show on the way to work or on the way home or whatever. So brunchradio.com. Yeah, the website's been around since probably 1999, but I had it rebuilt this past 14 months, and
Right.
it's all brand new. It's state of the art. It's got, it's just really, I really, really wanted people to be able to hear the show. So there it
Yeah.
is.
I mean, and it's a great thing. Before we go on, I just want to thank our community sponsors, the Friends of the Japanese Garden. They're working with the Jungle Island to upgrade their property and everything, and they've been around since 1984. They recently had a fundraising thing, and things went really well. They have been a big fan of the shows, and they've been a big
Wow.
sponsor, along with the Elks Lodge of 1676, who recently had a fundraiser, raised over $4,000 to help children with physical and occupational therapy problems, to help them with those. And it's a great organization. Check out the Elks at 1776.com, as well as the Japanese Gardens at friendsofthejapanesegardens.com. Join them both. They really are great. And my friend Rick Del Vecchio is a member of both of those organizations, as I will be with the lodge. And they do great work, particularly the Elks, Joe. They do work for veterans, helping veterans acclimate themselves back into society. They help people with scholarships. It's just a wonderful organization, and we're so grateful for their sponsorship and their help keeping this program moving forward.
Well, I went when I was in 5th or 6th grade, Colonial Drive Elementary in Perrine. We took a field trip to Jade Gardens, Japanese Gardens.
Yeah,
I remember because it's still on MacArthur Causeway, right? Like we were heading where they used to have Chalk's Airlines, right? They're taking off.
Yeah, did they go out of business? The Chalks?
Yeah, they never had an accident, but then and they were flying for like 35, 40. No, they were flying since the 20s. They never had an accident until they had that one couple of miles offshore when the plane took off, and I believe everybody perished. There were like 6 people in that, and that was about the beginning of the end for them. But it's in the opening scene of Miami Vice, the Chalk's airline.
And they were also in one of the Bond movies.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah,
they were in a couple of Bond movies, but the Japanese Garden is working with the city and Jungle Island to upgrade their facilities and everything, and it should be fabulous when they're all through with it. So we're very grateful to them for so much. Okay, nice. Let's go through. I want to, Andres, if you could, let's go through some of the people you've interviewed over the years on some of these cruises, and let's take a look at some of those pictures that we have. Oh, this is the Flower Power cruise. I think this was what, 2017. I think
he was on there. I think I see the Family Stone. Who do I see in there? It's too far back. I can't really tell who's in it, but that's me on the left. What I like about those they're like Q&As, but we call it All Together now, as in like the Beatles. Those are the guys from Air Supply. We call it All Together now. And so what happens is we bring different groups in that are on the cruise. So like, you're not just going to have the Guess Who, you're going to have the Guess Who and Kate Taylor, James Taylor's sister, and this and that person. And what happens is they end up mixing and telling stories with each other. So if you're looking at the picture of Air Supply, all the way on the left, that's Graham Russell. He's the he's the songwriter. The gentleman with the glasses there in the middle, that's Russell Hitchcock. And that's the late BJ Thomas, right next to them. And one of them said, BJ or somebody said something funny, and everybody started cracking up. So, we always have a theme. So like, for example, I'm going to be doing one next week where the theme of one of them is, jobs you had before you became a rock star. And I love that topic. That's always fun. So we do that before they were famous, we call it. And some of them, became famous. Then the band broke up, like the Cowsills, and let's say, and then they have to go back and work at a burger wash or whatever,
Yeah. All right, next one, Andres.
Okay. That's me.
Oh, there you go.
I'm interviewing myself in that photo. But no, the fun part is I get to introduce the bands. This is the band called the Jukebox. They're from Puerto Rico, and I'm telling you, they don't just play "I Want to Hold Your Hand." They play all the Harrison stuff. They actually play solo. They can do a solo show of McCartney and Wings, and in fact, I'm trying to put them together with Lawrence Juber to be the lead guitarist, and then they do like a a wings thing. Anyway, the jukebox, they're going to be on this Flower Power cruise this week.
Oh,
They're unbelievable. And being that they're from Puerto Rico, you might already think you know how they would be. They're unbelievable.
really?
Unbelievable. Yeah, they're
Oh,
so good.
and oh, here we go.
Okay,
Oh,
there's
yes,
the gentleman with the hat. Well, they both have
that's
hats.
Mickey Dolenz,
Mickey Dolenz, and the guy with the sunglasses, that is Mark
Lindsay,
from Mark Lindsay from the Paul Revere and
Paul
the
Revere and
Raiders.
the Raiders. Yeah, you know
We're
they had,
actually,
yeah,
huh?
they
We're
had
actually
a,
we're having there's another lead singer for the Raiders, and he's going to be on Darren Dowler of the Raiders. He's going to be on this week too. So I guess they had 3 lead singers. They had Mark Lindsay, they had
right.
Paul Revere, right? And
Yeah,
then I guess they had Darren Dowler. And I looked him up on YouTube. He's really entertaining, very funny guy.
yeah. Paul
So,
is no longer with us, and well, that wasn't
right.
his real name, but they were in Las Vegas forever. They were performing in Las Vegas forever and a day. There, they were in the lounge areas and at some of the different hotels.
Well,
Next one.
we did a Magic. We did it when we were first purchased by Lincoln Financial Media. No, Jefferson Pilot was the company that bought us. We threw this big concert at Joe Robbie Stadium at the time. We called it Stars and Cars. So during the day it was a car show, classic
And,
car show. Then at night we had Paul Revere and the Raiders. We had the Everly Brothers, the 2
oh,
Everly Brothers. What a show. And that service where you can send your tapes away and they send you back digital versions. My
right.
wife bought me that for Christmas, and I used it recently. I had a reel to reel of my interview with the Everly Brothers, and I sent it off, and it came back okay because it was reel to reel. It was all eeky and squeaky, but
Right,
you
right.
hear them doing liners on there. They had them do like those little, "Hi, I'm Phil, and I'm Don, and we're the Everly Brothers, and you're listening to Jukebox Saturday Night." Those
Yeah.
kind of little cool stuff. They were sweet.
I got to say something. You got the greatest wife alive. She
Oh
does
yeah.
so many wonderful things for you. I'm gonna have to get Coop on. I really
I think she would be a fun. She's very well rounded. She was she still is a choreographer, but she used to do those shows where they have the big they wear like the feather boas on their head.
yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah,
feather
yeah.
boas, like a
Showgirls.
big.
She was Showgirls.
She was like showgirl at the hotels you would know, like on North Miami Beach. What are some of the big hotels that have been
Um,
around since like the
well, they're all
40s?
gone. I mean, they're all gone now. I mean, those are big giant hotels now, from what I understand.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, like the Newport, for example. She
yeah,
she used to do shows there, and she would have dancers, and they would go to Japan and that kind of stuff. And
yeah,
she did. There was a show, a dinner theater called Laughing Matters in downtown Fort Lauderdale. She ran that for like 5 years. That was
wow.
one of the first things we did when we started going out. She invited me to
Andres,
see
can we
that.
have the next picture?
All right, what do we got next? That's me and the Beeve.
Yes.
Jerry Mathers. We're kind of dressed alike. He came by. He came by Magic, and he was the sweetest guy. He was the sweetest guy. Yeah, you and I were talking about something about television, I think, earlier. But his brother on TV, Tony Dow, was recently on CBS Sunday Morning,
Yeah,
and he's gotten older. He has a speech problem and everything. But what a nice guy. Yeah. But there
yeah,
you go with Jerry Mathers as well.
yeah.
So
Eddie Haskell was a Los Angeles. Oh, there we go. Now, if
that's
anybody knows who that is, they know a lot more than I did, because when I looked at it, I really had to look hard. For those of you that are familiar, that's it's not Adele, excuse me,
no.
but go ahead and tell who that is.
It is Delilah from
Yeah,
she's a nighttime. Listen, I'm going to run and get my battery charger. Can you fill for 1 second? It says they're
yeah.
about to shut my computer off. Don't go
Go
away,
ahead.
Gary. I'll be right
No,
back.
I won't. I won't.
Wait, wait.
I'll tell you what, Andres. While we're waiting, let's play that clip from Jukebox Saturday Night. It's a spoof on a caller that called into the show, and it kind of explains itself. So if we could have that one while Joe is doing what he has to do, let's run that little spot. It's kind of a funny spot. I listened to it myself. It should be in one of those emails I sent you. Well, I guess we're not going to have that at the moment. But anyway, you're listening to Mainstreet. Gary Allen with you. We're on here every Tuesday at 2 p.m. And we're on here because of the our gracious hosts, the Miller brothers, Mike and Grant Miller, as well as my executive producer, Rick Del Vecchio. And everything is, we're interviewing Joe Johnson. He had to take off just for a couple of seconds. But we'll be back with that in just a few minutes. We hope you're going to tune in every Tuesday at 2. We have some great guests coming up. I have Chris DePetta, who's the owner of the Punchline in Atlanta. He's also Billy Gardell's manager. You know him from Mike and Molly and from Bob Loves Abishola, I believe is the name of that show. He was also Steve Harvey's manager. We also have Glenn Hirsch coming on. In a couple of weeks, we're having Liam Lopez. Miss Lopez is the director and CEO of the Latin Chamber of Commerce. And that'll be exciting. And of course, the first Tuesday of every month, we have the Elks and Japanese Garden Show. And so we're doing that. We were going to play that bit that you had from Jukebox Saturday Night, but I don't know if Andres has found it or not yet.
You
know, I did send it to him, so I don't know.
Good question.
But anyway, so are we back running now?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I had to go get the cord.
Go.
Oh, look, there you go. Are you able to play it? Let me set it up real quick. Since the show, there was no cell phones back then. So the guy called me and he had a question and he was handing this phone back and forth to his friend to try to prove a point. And I was recording it. I always recorded it. And then I played it back. So I don't know if it plays. I think you might enjoy it. It's only a minute.
Okay.
Magic 102.7 WMHD. Wouldn't it be special? This is Joe Johnson, Jukebox Saturday Night. Nothing like a little family sibling rivalry, I always say. Listen up.
Yes, I was wondering if I could make a request.
Well, sure. What do you want to hear?
Something by the Big Bopper, but could you settle a bet also for us? Do you happen to know what the Big Bopper's real name is in real life?
I sure do. J.P. Richardson.
Okay, can you say that one more time to another fella?
Sure.
Say it again. Hello?
Yeah, his real name?
Yeah.
What did you think it was?
J.P. Robertson?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, Richardson or Robertson?
Robertson.
Robertson?
Sure.
Did you say Robertson or Richardson?
Richardson.
It's Richardson, Bruce. Say Robertson. Say it one more time, okay?
Yeah, put him on the phone.
Hello?
Yeah, Robertson.
Robertson, correct.
All right.
Robertson. You said Robertson or Richardson?
Richardson.
Why do you keep saying Robertson? He said Richardson. It's Robertson. But he's saying Richardson. He can't say it on the air, Ken, you know.
Okay, we'll work it out, guys.
Okay, but it is
Thanks.
Richardson?
Yeah, it's Richardson.
Hello?
Yeah, it's Robert.
I hate to do this. It is Robertson, R-O-B?
Right, Robertson.
Okay, it's Robertson. You're weird. Get away from me. Okay, you're going to stay on the air?
Yeah, thanks a lot for calling, Matt.
Oh, man. You can't do that anymore because of, cell phones and people on the speakerphone.
No, you really can't. But, radio, the way we grew up listening to it and the reasons that we gravitated towards it, a lot of that is gone now. There's no real personalities anymore. There's no, it's no more mom and pops and competition against competition kind of a thing. It's kind of like everything is corporate now. Everything is corporate, and it really takes away from what is and what isn't. But the one thing that I want to talk about here, we got about 7 or 8 minutes left in the program. You're riding down I-95. Well, I shouldn't say riding down I-95 because I know what it's like, the traffic there. Although at 4 o'clock in the morning, there isn't much traffic as you go.
There's not, but the traffic there is going 90. And I'm in a Prius, so it's a little harrowing.
Yeah. Is LRN still located where it has been for 30 years?
I think there's bodies buried there. That building's been there like 70 years. But the rumor is because the school board owns the license, and apparently they have a deal with the staff or the fundraising arm of WLRN. But I think the buildings are sold. They sold the building that the school board is in. They sold the building that we're in. And across the street, there's a huge parking lot. And if you've ever seen downtown, these 3 gigantic squares of property, you could probably put, 4 big, tall, 40-story condos up. So they sold the property. And I think they are going to have space in one of the buildings that gets built. So to be continued.
Yeah. You're on a desert island. You're going to be there for 6 months to a year. And you're only allowed to take a person's music or a band's catalog. Could be a person or it could be a catalog of a band. Who do you take besides, and the Beatles you cannot include?
Really? Okay. How about Jukebox, the Beatle cover band? Maybe I could bring them. No.
Yeah.
I would say again, I'm gonna go with I would say the Beach Boys, but I think that after about 2 weeks of Beach Boys, I would probably swim back to Kathmandu. So let me see who's really varied. Their catalog has changed over the years a lot. Billy Joel, I mean, he's a lot different than he was, You know, he
Yes.
did that classical album, and he did the Ray Charles type of thing. Then he did Captain Jack. He did Piano Man, obviously.
Mhm.
I would probably say Billy Joel is the most varied person that I could listen to, mainly,
Yeah.
unless it was a band that got back together, 30 years later and it sounded totally different. What
You know,
about you?
me, it's hard because I love jazz music and I also love classical music. But I did ask that question of Engelbert when I was working with him once, and I said, "Would you take any of your own music?" He said, "Oh God, no. I get bored with my own music when I'm on stage." You know,
Wow.
so for me, it would probably have to be Haydn, Joseph Haydn, his Paris symphonies or his London symphonies. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. I'm the only on long hair, as my father used to call me in the family. I really love classical music and art and everything like that. But where I live up here in Central Florida, there's not a lot of that going on. There
Not a
really,
lot of like places that play jazz or music where you could go
yeah,
and have dinner and hang out.
there really isn't, and there are a lot of cover bands for this group or for that group. And half the time they're not really very good. I guess they figure the louder they are, the better they are, and that's not necessarily the truth. You know,
Yeah. Do people get Engelbert Humperdinck confused with Tom Jones?
they don't get them confused, but they think there's a war between the two of them.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
No, there's no war between the two of them. They both like each other very much. There might have been a little bit of a rivalry at the very beginning.
Right.
Tom came on the scene before Eng. You know what Eng's real name is?
No, what is it?
Michael Dorsey.
Really?
And he changed it because of Jimmy Dorsey.
Wow.
And of course, his lovely, beautiful wife recently passed away. But one of the nicest gentlemen in the world. He and Tom were always so gracious. Now, the difference between the two of them, they're both crooners in a sense, but Engelbert is more of the gentlemanly crooner, and Tom is kind of like out there, the women.
He's the wild guy.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Women still to this very day when he does perform, which isn't very often now, but the women do still throw their unmentionables at him.
Depends. No, I mean, depends if they're wearing them, that's what I mean. I mean, whether they throw it or not.
That's an old joke that where does an 80-year-old cocaine man where does he keep his stash? It depends. You know, it goes back. It goes back. But no, next time you're on, we got to have Coop on, even if it's for 10 minutes, because I mean, the most wonderful life you two have led.
We post all those pictures to remind us how lucky we are. No, seriously, we didn't meet till late in our life, and so we're making up for lost time.
Come on, you're not an old man like me. You're young still.
Dude, I just turned a Beatles song this past Friday. I wish it was we were just 17, but it's not.
No.
It's the other one that will you still need me? Will you still feed me?
I love that song. I love that song. When I turned 64, it was like, okay, now what am I supposed to feel? I'm 69 now, and I called my sister who's in her middle 70s. I said, what am I supposed to feel? She said, I don't know. It's all in someone's head. She said, I know people that are 74 that are like 90. I know
Right.
people that are 74 that are young, By
Right.
the way, the Stones are celebrating 60 years in show business.
Yeah, I saw the logo for their European tour, and I saw an interview with Anthony Mason from CBS where he interviewed Keith Richard. And Keith Richard, did you know he stopped smoking? Now he'll probably get unhealthy. I mean, all that stuff he did. Every time there's a pandemic or something going on, people post Keith Richards' picture, and he goes, "Yeah, tell me, I'll be here long after you're gone."
Robin Williams had a great. We're just about out of time, by the way.
Yeah, sorry, dude.
That's okay. We can go over a couple minutes, but Robin Williams had the greatest line about Keith Richards. He said Keith Richards could snort anthrax and it wouldn't affect him at all whatsoever. He's had so many blood transfusions and everything, and I just laughed because Robin was such a kick and quite a mentor for me over the years.
Wow.
He is Joe Johnson, Beetle Brunch, Jukebox
Yes.
Saturday Night, Magic 102.7. And a very deep and a very dear friend of mine who hopefully next time Coop will come on. And when we get down there to Miami, I'm going to work on finding a place for Jukebox Saturday Night because that show has always been and always will be phenomenal. And if you do run into, if she happens to be watching right now, Mindy Lang, I'd love to get you and her on and talk about the days at Magic. And I think Ron is up in North Carolina somewhere, retired by now.
Ron St. John?
Yeah.
Oh, he lives in Vero Beach.
Oh, he lives in Vero, not far from me.
Not fun. No, a little south of you. My sister lives in Vero Beach, so maybe the three of you guys could get together and send me a check.
And stay right where you are. I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us here on Main Street this Tuesday afternoon. I hope you have a wonderful week between now and next Tuesday. And again, I just want to thank Rick Del Vecchio, my executive producer.
Thanks, Rick.
And thank the Miller brothers for their helping me with this show and giving me the platform. My studio producer, Andreas, and of course, the Japanese Garden of Miami and the Elks Lodges of South Florida. I just want to thank you all very much for allowing us to come into your homes. And I want to thank you all very much for coming in and watching every Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Until next week, take care of yourselves and each other.
Gary.